Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to set the stage for a truly profound paradigm shift. Seriously, we are going to deconstruct the very fabric of reality itself. We'll be using an ancient, highly rigorous diagnostic tool, Nāgārjuna's 11-step Madhyamaka X-ray, specifically diving deep into Chapter 4 of his masterwork, the Mūlamadhyamakakārikā. We're going to walk through this step-by-step together, so buckle up and get ready to rethink absolutely everything you thought was solid. Okay, let's dive into this. Wherever you are right now, I literally want you to reach out and tap your desk. Or, just clap your hands together. Do you feel that absolute solid boundary? That undeniable physical resistance pushing back against your skin? Well, in that exact, fleeting fraction of a second, your biology is doing something called edge detection. It's instantly telling your brain there's a strict, uncrossable border where your hand ends and the desk begins. But as we're going to discover today, that absolute boundary is a complete illusion. So, to diagnose and cure our misconceptions of reality, we're taking a very structured, finite journey today. Here's the roadmap. We'll start with the illusion of solid reality, then break down the triad of composition. After that, we'll run reality through the tetralemma logic test, explore emptiness and dependent origination, learn how to walk the middle way, and finally, zoom way out to the limitless fractal cycle. All right, jumping into Section 1, the illusion of solid reality. This is all about diagnosing the disease of reification. You see, the exact same biological survival traits that keep us alive out in the wild have accidentally created a massive psychological problem for us in our modern minds. And that problem is called reification. It's basically the mental process of taking fluid, ever-changing, interdependent processes and freezing them into solid, absolute, independent things. Think of it like taking a snapshot, an X-ray, really, of a fluid, moving reality and then falsely labeling things in absolute, black and white binaries. It's like a doctor tapping an X-ray and declaring a bone is absolutely broken or not broken with zero ambiguity. We desperately want to draw hard lines around concepts like success, failure, self, and other. But freezing reality this way, it leads to immense psychological suffering when the universe inevitably shifts on us. Look at the profound difference here. On one side, we have biological edge detection. Your visual cortex literally evolved to draw strict boundaries between a tiger and a tree so you don't get eaten. That keeps you alive. It's absolutely crucial. But on the flip side, we have reification, which is a psychological habit of grasping at frozen dualities. While edge detection is a highly functional tool, psychological reification traps us in a super painful cycle. We end up clinging to false, rigid extremes that simply do not exist in nature. And that brings us perfectly to Section 2, the triad of composition, where we look at the anatomy of the physical aggregates. So, the crucial point is how Nāgārjuna handles this in Chapter 4 of the Mūlamadhyamakakārikā. He deeply analyzes exactly what makes up our physical and mental world. In Buddhist philosophy, these are called the skandhas, or the aggregates. They're essentially the 5 conventionally identified components of human experience: form, which is your physical body; feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. In our day-to-day lives, we conventionally treat these as solid things that possess inherent reality and somehow add up to us. To understand if these aggregates are truly solid, we kick off our 11-step X-ray. The first 3 steps are all about translating our reality into a triad of composition. Step 1 is the parts. These are the invisible, irreducible basic elements or causes. Step 2 is composing, the actual action or causing that aggregates them all together. And step 3 is the wholes, the final visible aggregates or effects, like your physical form. We conventionally divide our entire world into these 3 spheres, just automatically assuming each has its own independent, absolute existence. Moving right along to Section 3, the tetralemma logic test. We're about to run the ultimate reality stress test. We're now going to put this triad, the parts, the composing action, and the wholes, through Nāgārjuna's 4-fold logic gate. This covers steps 4 through 7 of our X-ray. Step 4 asks, are parts and wholes completely different? Step 5, are they exactly identical? Step 6, are they somehow both? And step 7, are they absolutely neither? Let's just systematically cross these off. If the basic causes and the final physical aggregate are exactly identical, well, the distinction between producer and product completely collapses, making the whole concept of causality meaningless. If they're somehow both identical and different, that's just a direct logical contradiction. And if they're neither, we deny functional reality entirely. So none of those 3 work at all. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is looking closely at that first extreme, complete difference. We normally think of causes and effects as entirely separate things, right? But if the parts and the whole are inherently, absolutely separate, it means they have closed, impenetrable borders. Causality would break completely. There would literally be an unbridgeable metaphysical void between them. If causes and effects didn't depend on each other, absolutely anything could produce anything else. A stone could magically produce a flower. Because absolute boundaries literally cannot be crossed. It just doesn't make sense. Which leads us to Section 4, Emptiness and Dependent Origination, discovering the inseparable echo. Because the tetralemma just systematically dismantled all those extremes, we arrive at Step 8 of our logic engine, recognizing dependent origination. Nāgārjuna brilliantly states this in Chapter 4. Separate from the cause of form, no form is found. Separate from a so-called form, the cause of form also does not appear. This proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that parts and wholes are totally empty of an absolute independent essence. Why? Because they are completely and entirely dependently co-arisen. The aggregate of form only exists in relation to its causes, and the causes only act as causes because they produce the form. It's a total package deal. And this leaves us with this awe-inspiring realization about the true nature of the triad. The parts, the composing, and the wholes are entirely empty of inherent existence. That is the ultimate truth. Yet, at the same time, they are dependently co-arisen and fully functional. That is the conventional truth. They are a product of mutual co-creation. It's exactly like an echo in a canyon. An echo is undeniably functional, right? A shout bounces off a rock wall and can literally startle a bird. It has real impact. But if you try to walk down into that canyon and physically grab that sound wave with your bare hands, you're just grabbing empty air. Our physical aggregates are exactly like that, perfectly functional, yet totally ungraspable at their core. They're an illusion that is there, yet not there. And that brings us to Section 5, Walking the Middle Way, how to navigate the world without grasping. Okay, so if our physical world and our very identities are just an ungraspable echo, how do we practically navigate reality without falling into a total existential panic? For steps 9 and 10 of our journey, we have to avoid two disastrous extremes. On one side is eternalism. Step 9, our old habit of grasping at a solid, permanent reality, which just leads to massive suffering when things inevitably change. On the other side is nihilism. Step 10, the dark, totally apathetic belief that since things are empty, nothing actually exists and nothing matters at all. The middle way threads the needle right between these two. It's not a frozen, rigid line painted on the ground. It's much more like riding a bicycle. You are constantly making dynamic micro-adjustments. You engage with the gravity of the universe without letting it crush you. To walk this middle way, we practice acting without acting. I love this analogy. Treat life like an intense video game. When you play, you engage passionately. You try to win, you play by the rules of the game. But no matter how crazy the boss fight gets, you know the dragons aren't inherently real. They're just pixels on a screen. In the exact same way, you can navigate a high-stakes corporate meeting or daily life stress using conventional concepts like success and failure, but you don't reify a temporary failure into your absolute, eternal identity. You use the tools of reality, but you don't let them trap your soul. Finally, we reach Section 6, the limitless fractal cycle, timeless compassion in the endless web. Let's zoom out for Step 11, the final stage of our logic engine, the infinite regression and progression of reality. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole shebang. If you zoom in, wholes are made of parts. An aggregate physical body relies on atoms. But those atoms? They're made of even smaller parts, ad infinitum. There is no ultimate bedrock. Now, if you zoom out, the whole becomes a part of a larger system. Your body is just a part of the vast cosmos. The result is this beautiful centerless oscillation. The karmic fractal updates infinitely. What we conventionally label as an individual is really just a temporary nexus where collective and cosmic processes intersect. There is no ultimate, solid boundary separating you from the rest of the universe. But Nāgārjuna issues a profound, almost secret warning here. Emptiness itself is empty. Whatever you do, do not turn the concept of emptiness into a new, solid religion to grasp onto. Emptiness is really just a heavy wooden raft used to cross the dangerous river of illusion and anxiety. Once you reach the other shore of non-dual awareness, you don't pick up that heavy raft and carry it on your back through the forest forever, right? You drop the conceptual raft entirely. And when you finally drop that raft, you unlock timeless compassion. Because if there is no inherently separate I, there logically cannot be an inherently separate other. The observer and the observed co-arise in the exact same interdependent web. Therefore, to hurt someone else out of greed or malice is literally a logical absurdity. It's like injecting poison into the very environmental web that instantaneously loops back to make up your own existence. Instead, compassion just becomes spontaneous. Think of your right hand pulling your left hand off a hot stove. It doesn't sit there debating the ethics or weighing the pros and cons. It inherently feels the interconnectedness of a single organism and acts instantly. Let's move to and see how this builds to our final thought. The very next time you tap your desk, feel that physical resistance and notice your brain eagerly slapping a binary label onto reality. I really want you to pause. Just observe the machinery of your own mind working. Who or what are you in that pure, silent space between the opposites, right before the edge is detected? Thank you so much for exploring Nāgārjuna's 11-step X-ray with me today. Keep questioning those boundaries.